Hello everyone, welcome back to SAE podcast. Today's topic is Toyota Supra MK3. My name is Ridwan Goswami.
I'm Aranyak Mukherjee.
And I'm Swarali Upadhyay. So, welcome back to the show. Today, we are deep diving into a machine that often flies under the radar in the mainstream car world, overshadowed perhaps by its most famous successor. But for those of us who truly appreciate the lineage and understand brilliance of Japanese automotive engineering, this one's a legend in its own right. We are talking about the third generation Toyota Supra, the MK3. The unsung hero that laid the groundwork, the silent achiever that came before the world was utterly captivated by the mythos of 2JZ. This isn't just a car, it's a pivotal moment in Supra history. So, are you ready to buckle up and take a detailed journey back to time of pop up headlights and inline six symphonies? Because we are about to explore the often overlooked greatness of the MK3.
Absolute Swirly. The MK3 is like that incredible album from a band that never quite hit the top of the charts. But every true fans know it's their masterpiece. You listen to the deep track, the B-sides, and you are left wondering, how did this not become a massive hit? This is the car, your seasoned car enthusiast uncle. The one who knew his engines inside and out. Likely swore back in the late 80s and early 90s, right before the internet and the blockbuster movie turned the MK4 into the poster child. The MK3 has a different kind of respect. If the MK4 is the flashy movie star, the car that everyone recognizes from the silver screen, then the MK3 is the dedicated garage hero, the one built with passion and appreciated for its intrinsic qualities rather than the fleeting frame. It's the real deal.
Exactly. This star didn't just materialize out of thin air. It had a predecessor, a history, and it bravely stepped out to forge its own identity. The MK3 walked with confidence so that the later legends could run with global acclaim. It is a foundational piece of the Supra story. And let's not forget the quintessential late 80s and early 90s hallmarks. Those fantastic pop-up headlights that add a touch of playful aggression, the availability of a potent turbo option that offered genuine performance, and that undeniably chunky, yet somehow sleek 80s charm that's so distinctive. What more could you possibly ask for in a classic JDM machine? So settle in, everyone. We are about to delve into the narrative of a Supra, which is often underestimated but deeply admired by those who know their automotive history. The story of this underrated icon starts right now. Segment 1, the Supra of its own. To truly understand the significance of the MK3, we need to take a little trip back in time to early 1980s. In those days, the Supra wasn't the standalone icon we know today. It actually began its life as an extension of the another well-regarded Toyota model, the Celica Supra. Initially, it was conceived as a longer, more muscular, and more performance-oriented variant of the Celica, while it had its own distinct styling cues and crucially an inline six engine differentiating it from the four-cylinder Celica. It still shared the fundamental platform and much of the overall design language. Think of it as a Celica that had hit the gym and developed a taste for Grand Touring.
But everything shifted dramatically in the 1986. This was the pivotal year when Toyota made the bold decision to liberate the Supra, to give it its own distinct identity and badge. And from this separation, the MK3 was gloriously born. It was the declaration of independence for the Supra name. The Celica, in a significant divergence, transitioned into a front-wheel drive layout, becoming more focused on economy and everyday practicality. The Supra, however, resolutely stuck to its rear-wheel drive roots and was equipped with a larger, more powerful engine, along with its sharper, more performance-tuned suspension and handling characteristics. Toyota clearly recognized that this was no longer just a trim level. This was a serious performance statement, a car within its own distinct mission.
Absolute Sorali. That split was a monumental move. It was Toyota emphatically stating, we're not solely about the reliable and efficient Corollas and Camrys. We're also here to compete head to head with the likes of Nissan 300ZX and the Mazda RX-7 and even some of the esteemed European Grand Tourers. It was a bold assertion of their engineering prowess and their ambition in the car market. And with its long, sweeping hood, a more compact rear deck, and an overall GT style build that exuded a sense of sophisticated power. The MK3 visually proclaimed its newfound independence with a distinctive and stylish presence. It was a departure from its Celica origins and a clear sign of its performance intentions. Segment 2, Styling. A slice of the 80s. Alright, let's talk about aesthetics. You simply cannot tell me that a pop-up headlights don't inherently make any car at least 10 times cooler. It is an undeniable fact. They just exude a certain retro-futuristic charm that's hard to resist. The MK3 embraced the design trends of its era wholeheartedly, and those retraceable lamps were a key part of that. They gave the car a sleek, almost shark-like front fascia when closed, and then, with the flick of a switch, they would dramatically rise to attention, adding a touch of playful aggression to its character. It was pure 80s cool.
NC3 was absolutely dripping with that unmistakable 80s futurism. It boasted a long, el- elegant, wedge-shaped silhouette that hinted at speed even when standing still, a wide and planted stance that conveyed stability and performance, and, as Rithiman mentioned, those iconic pop-up headlights that are now a beloved hallmark of the era. And let's not forget the pronounced fender flares that not only look fantastic, but also suggested the car's capable handling and the potential for wider tires. It was a design that managed to be both sophisticated and sporty, a true representation of the era's design ethos.
And stepping inside the MK3 was entering the cockpit of a future futuristic jet. You were greeted by a wraparound dashboard design that cocooned the driver, placing all the essential controls within easy reach. On the higher trim levels, the digital dashboard was a real showstopper, resembling something straight out of a cutting edge video game or a science fiction movie HUD. It was a technological statement in itself. The layout emphasized the driver-centric experience, reinforcing the car's sporting intentions, while still providing a sense of comfortable grandeur.
And we can't overlook the vibrant and distinctive color palettes that were available. You had striking options like a deep and lustrous, super deep red pearl, the sophisticated blue mica, the understated elegance of metallic grey, and of course, that timeless and always sharp super white that gave the car a clean and purposeful look. These weren't just standard colors; they were part of the MK3's visual identity.
And visual appeal, where the various trim packages offered. You had these sportier turbo trims with the subtle aerodynamic enhancements, the more luxurious leather packages that elevated the interior ambience. And of course, those were special editions like the legendary Turbo A, which were specially engineered and produced in limited numbers to meet the homologation requirements for Group A racing. These different trims catered to a range of tastes and performance aspirations.
The MK3 was a car that confidently straddled the line between looking futuristic and conveying a sense of serious performance capability, all while embodying the stylistic trends of 1980s. And you're right, Turner. It was those metaphorical shoulders, pads of the decade with undeniable flair and confidence. It was a design that was both of its time and in many ways ahead of it. Segment 3, Under the Hood, the 7M legend. Alright, let's delve into the heart of the beast, the engines that powered the MK3. We're talking about the Renault S7M family, the naturally aspirated 7MGE, and its turbocharged sibling, the 7M GTE. These were serious pieces of engineering for their time. They weren't just any engines, they were inline sixes, a configuration known for its inherent smoothness and balanced power delivery, which perfectly suited the Supra's grand touring aspirations, while also offering the potential for exciting performances.
The 7M GE, the naturally aspirated 3-liter inline 6, produced around 200 horsepower. It was characterized by its smooth operation, its respectable torque output across the rev range, and a classic Toyota reputation for reliability. Well, with a notable caveat that we'll get into in a moment, it was a refined and capable engine for everyday driving and spirited cruising.
Ah, yes. Few the collective grown from super enthusiasts worldwide. The Achilles heel of the early 7M engine. The infamous head gasket issues. It turned out that Toyota, in the initial production, had undertorqued the head bolts of the substrate. This unfortunately created a potential ticking time bomb, especially if the car was driven hard or neglected. Many owners experienced drastic failure as a result.
But thankfully, the enthusiasts community quickly identified the problem and developed robust solutions. The common fix involved replacing the factory head gasket with a more durable metal one and crucially upgrading to a stronger ARP head studs that could handle higher torque settings. Once these preventive measures were taken, the 7M engine, both GE and GTE variants, could indeed become as reliable as the Toyota name suggested, a true workhorse.
Now let's talk about the one many enthusiasts lusted after, the turbo version. The 7M GTE. This engine was a significant setup in performance. Thanks to the addition of the CT26 turbocharger, it bumped the power output to the respectable 232 horsepower and delivered a healthy 254 pound-feet of torque. But the standards of late 80s and early 90s, those were genuinely impressive figures, allowing for exciting acceleration and a thrill driving experience.
The beauty of the 7M GT didn't just stop at its stock output. It was also remarkably tunable with the right modifications like a larger turbocharger and upgraded intercooler to keep intake temperatures down and improve fuel system components. These engines could reliably push into the range of 400 to 600 horsepower without showing signs of significant stress. It became a favorite among those looking for serious power gains.
However, if you're planning on extracting that kind of power, cooling modifications were absolutely essential. The engine bay of the MK3 could get very hot very quickly, especially under boost. Upgrading the radiator to a higher capacity unit and adding an external oil cooler were considered must-do modifications for anyone serious about pushing the performance envelope of the 7M GT. Keeping things cool was key to the longevity.
It's also important to note the differences in the transmissions offered. The turbocharged models came equipped with the highly regarded and robust R154 5-speed manual gearbox, which was known for its strength and ability to handle significant power. The naturally aspirated cars, on the other hand, typically came with the lighter duty but still perfectly adequate W58 5-speed. While the W58 hasn't designed for extreme power levels, it was well suited for the any engine's output and provided a satisfying driving experience for most builds. Segment 4, Tech that was ahead of its time. Looking back, the MK3 was almost like the JDM equivalent of Mercedes-Benz of its era in terms of sheer amount of technology it packed. It was genuinely wild for a car of the late 80s and early 90s. Toyota wasn't just focused on performance, they were also pushing boundaries of automotive technology.
Absolutely. Take TEMS, Toyota Electronic Modular Suspension, for example. This wasn't just your run-of-the-mill suspension system. TMS could automatically adjust the stiffness of the shock absorbers in real time based on the car's speed and steering inputs, optimizing both handling and ride comfort. What's even cooler is that you, the driver, could manually toggle between the different stiffness settings right from the cockpit, giving you a degree of control over the car's dynamics that was quite advanced for the time.
And we're talking about the features that were considered quite luxurious or high-end back then. Digital dashboards that presented information in futuristic and easy digestible format. A limited slip differential to improve traction and handling. Anti-lock braking system (ABS) for enhanced safety, power adjustable lumbar support for the driver comfort on long journeys, and even an electronically adjustable driver seat with memory functions. All in a car from the 80s. They weren't commonplace features.
Some higher end versions of the MK3 even offered driver side airbags before they were federally mandated in many markets. This really highlights Toyota's commitment to innovation and even safety during that period. They were not just keeping up with the competition in many respects, they were setting new standards. Toyota was definitely flexing its technological muscle with the MK3.
This is really blurred the line between a pure sports car and a sophisticated luxury grand tourer. They offered a compelling blend of performance and premium features, almost like a Japanese interpretation of the Porsche 944. Perhaps the more comprehensively equipped interior that felt more like a built-in high-tech command center. It wasn't just about going fast, it was about doing so with a certain level of refinement and technological sophistication. Segment 5, Motorsports and the Modern Scene. The MK3 wasn't solely designed for legendary family drivers showing off on the streets. It had a competitive spirit and saw its fair share of action in the racetrack as well.
You're absolutely right, Aranya. The noteworthy model was the Turbo A. As we touched on earlier, this was a very special, limited production version, specifically created by the Toyota to meet the homologation requirements for Group A racing in Japan. Fewer than 500 of these were made, making them incredibly rare and highly sought after. They were more powerful and more track focused right out of the box.
Beyond the homologation specials and a standard MK3 Supra also participated in various forms of motorsports, including the prestigious All Japan Touring Car Championship and several endurance racing events. While it might have been perceived as a bit heavier compared to some of its rivals, its inherent stability and the potential of its powerful inline six engine allowed it to be competitive contender in the right hands.
And then there's the ideal tuner world, where the MK3 has carved out a significant niche as a step sleeper favorite. You see incredible builds popping up on YouTube, legendary tales shared on automotive forums, and countless examples of MK3s that have undergone 1JZ or 2JZ engine stacks, transforming them into absolute monsters capable of producing truly astonishing levels of power. Became a blank canvas for insane levels of automotive creativity.
There was always something particularly satisfying about encountering a seemingly unassuming, boxy, and cleanly styled MK3 at a car meet, only to later discover that it was concealing 600 or even more horsepower beneath its hood. That element of surprise and understated performance earned it a lot of respect within the car enthusiast community. It wasn't about overt flashiness, it was about hidden potential.
Exactly, Swarali. You didn't typically build a MK3 to simply flex or show off with superficial modifications. You built one because you appreciated its underlying engineering, its robust platform, and the visceral driving experience it could offer. It was about the feeling, the connection between the driver and the machine, the satisfaction of unlocking its hidden capabilities.
Segment 6, why it's still underrated. So, with all its merits, the question remains, why doesn't the MP3 often receive the same level of widespread adoration and recognition as some of its contemporaries or its successors?
I think a significant part of it's come down to the timing and the overwhelming impact of its successor. When the MK4 arrived on the scene, especially with the legendary 2JZ's engine, it completely stole the spotlight. And once Hollywood got involved, particularly with the Fast and Furious franchise, the MK4's iconic status was cemented in the popular consciousness. The MK3, having come before, was somewhat overshadowed by its cultural phenomena.
But you know what? Among true JDM enthusiasts, the MK3 holds a special place. It's often seen as the connoisseur's choice. It has a more analog feel compared to the later, more technologically advanced MK4. It possesses a certain raw, unadulterated soul, and yes, there's a certain heft, both literally in terms of its build and figuratively in terms of the feeling it evokes. It's a car with a character.
It didn't need flashy neon lights or dramatic wheelies to make an impression. It was an appeal, more subtle, more about the driving experience itself. It just needed a winding road, a driver who understood and appreciated its capabilities, and the open road ahead. Its charm lies in the understated competence and its connection to a bygone era of automotive design.
Segment 7, Living with the MK3 today. So, if someone today is considering taking the plunge and owning an MK3, what are some of the key things that they should be aware of? First and foremost, join a dedicated online forum or community. The wealth of knowledge and support you'll find there is invaluable.
Absolutely. Parts can indeed be a bit tricky to source these days, especially when it comes to specific electronics and interior trim pieces. These cars are getting older, so certain components can become rare. However, the enthusiast community surrounding the NK3 is one of the most helpful resources you'll find online. People are passionate and often go out of their way to assist fellow owners in finding what they need.
If you're looking at potential purchase, the condition of the head gasket is paramount, especially on the earlier 7M engine. If it's already been addressed with the updated metal gasket and ARP studs, that's a huge plus. If not, consider it a top priority. Do it first thing. It's practically the MK3's rite of passage for many owners. It's a well known issue, and proactive fix can save you a lot of headache down the road.
But once those potential pitfalls are addressed and the car is sorted, the MK3 offers a genuinely rewarding driving experience. It drives like a dream in many ways, smooth, with a good amount of usable torque, and just enough body roll in the corners to remind you that you are piloting an analog machine from a different era. It's engaging without being overly demanding.
And it's also one of those cars that still manages to garner attention and spark conversations. You might have strangers coming up to your gas stations or parking lots saying, "Hey, is that a Supra?" And it's usually out of genuine curiosity and appreciation, not just because it's a meme or movie car. There's a different kind of respect that comes with the owning an MP3.
Segment 8, Fan Moments and Pop Culture Glimpses. Okay, let's be honest here. The MK3 didn't exactly get the blockbuster Hollywood treatment that propelled the MK4 into mainstream superstardom. No high octane hero moments in the Fast and Furious saga. No dramatic quarter-mile drag races against Dom Toretto. Its presence in popular culture was more subtle.
But in a way, that lack of mainstream saturation makes it even cooler, right? It remained more of an insider's car, appreciated within the dedicated car enthusiast circles. It was the kind of car you recognized and admired in classic racing games like Gran Turismo 1 or the underground street racing world of Tokyo Extreme Racer, rather than plastered all over movie posters. That gives it a certain underground credibility.
And for those of us who are into anime scenes, initially fans, do you remember Kenta Nakamura's distinctive yellow MP3? Sure, he might not have been the most skilled driver in Akina, but his Supra undeniably looked fantastic. It was a memorable vehicle in that iconic series, even if it wasn't driven by one of the main characters.
Plus, in the real world, you often see this play out at local cars and coffee events. There's always that one meticulously maintained MK3 that shows up with a clean, unillustrated bill. And it often ends up drawing more appreciative glances and conversations than some of the more flamboyant supercars present. There's a quiet respect for a well-kept MK3.
I actually remember meeting a guy who tracked down his father's old MK3, which had ended up in a junkyard. He painstakingly restored it over the course of 5 years, meticulously sourcing every single bolt and trim piece, all just to keep that family history and connection alive. That kind of personal story really speaks to the emotional attachment people have to these cars.
That's truly what the MK3 means to many owners. It transcends being just a mode of transportation. It's personal, carries a sense of history, it evokes a particular feeling, certain vibe that resonates with those who appreciate its unique character and its place in automotive history. It's more than just a car. It's an experience, a memory, a connection.
Segment 9, the MK3 versus the competition. Let's take a moment to put the MK3 in the context of its contemporaries. Think about the Mazda RX-7 FC, the Nissan 300ZX Z31 of the same era. Even some of the European and American contenders like the Ford Mustang GT and the Porsche 944. How did the Supra MK3 stack up against these rivals?
The RX-7 FC was definitely more lightweight and arguably the sharper handling of the bunch. It had the rotary engine magic, but the Supra countered with its smooth and torquey inline-six, often offering better long-distance cruising comfort and a different kind of power delivery. They appeal to a slightly different driving preferences.
The Nissan 300ZX Z31 shared a similar grand touring ethos to the Supra, but the Z often felt a bit more quirky and perhaps less refined in some aspects. The Supra, with its inline-six and more traditional layout, projected a sense of more sophisticated power like a well-managed, capable cruiser.
When you compare it to the Mustang GT of the time, the Mustang was undoubtedly more raw and focused on straight line speed. The Supra offered a more civilized and technologically advanced experience. And against Porsche 944, while the 944 boasted brilliant handling and a more European feel, It often lacked the oral pleasure and the sheer grunt of the Supra's inline six.
Exactly. The key takeaway is that the Supra MK3 wasn't necessarily trying to be the absolutely fastest or the most visually flamboyant. Its strength lay in the balanced approach. It aimed to be a proper Grand Tourer with genuine JDM engineering DNA and a sophisticated, almost gentlemanly silhouette. It offered a compelling blend of performance, comfort, and technology that set it apart from its rivals.
Segment 10, Community Love and Ownership Stories. You really get a sense of the deep affection for the MK3 when interact with the owner community. The passion for this particular generation of Supra is palpable.
I vividly remember attending a Supras in Vegas event a few years back, and there was this one individual who owned not one but three MK3s, each a different color and each with a distinct build philosophy. One was naturally aspirated model kept largely stock. Another was a turbo with tasteful bolt-on upgrades, and the third was a fire-breathing monster with a two chassis swap pushing out around 800 horsepower. It really showcased the versatility and love for the platform.
And the online forums, platform like Supramania and the various MK3 Supra owners group on social media are absolute treasure troves of information, shared knowledge, and genuinely positive vibes. There's very little of the toxic gatekeeping you sometimes find in car communities. Instead, it's mostly just helpful advice, shared experience, and a deep appreciation for the history of these cars.
It's also quite special to see that many of the original owners and long-time enthusiasts are still active in these communities, generously sharing their wisdom and guiding the newer generation of MK3 owners. There's a strong sense of continuity and shared passion.
Personally seen MK3 being used for surprisingly wide range of automotive pursuits, dedicated drift cars treading cars sideways, meticulously prepared time-packed machines chasing tenths of a second on the track, and even a surprisingly comfortable, reliable daily drivers, even now, decades after they were first produced.
The story of the Supra MK3 and its dedicated following is a testament to the fact that with genuine passion and community support, even a car that might be considered a forgotten hero by some can become an unforgettable and cherished part of the automotive culture. The love for these cars runs deep and is a joy to witness.
Segment 11, Color and Trim Nostalgia Trip. Let's take a moment to really appreciate the aesthetic choices Toyota made with the MK3, particularly the fantastic range of colors and interior themes that were available during its production run.
Oh man, that super deep red pearl was just stunning, especially when the sunlight caught it. It had this incredible depth and richness. It was a real head turner.
And who could forget that elegant light blue metallic or the sophisticated and timeless two-tone combination of grey over silver? And of course, the always classic and undeniably menacing black on black. It always had a certain presence.
Stepping inside, the interior options were equally evocative of the era. You had the comfortable and slightly plush grey velour, the more upscale optional leather upholstery, and even cool features like adjustable side bolster on the seats, allowing you to customize the fit. The whole interior design just exuded the comfortable, almost lounge-like vibes that were characteristic of many 80s and early 90s GT cars.
I even distinctly remember those bold Supra turbo decals that adorned the rear bumper on the later turbocharged models. They were simple, but so iconic and instantly recognizable.
And let's not overlook the simple elegance of the analog clock often found in the dashboard. It's one of those small details that perhaps wasn't groundbreaking at the time, but it adds a touch of timeless class that seems to get better with age. These were thoughtful design touches that contributed to the overall character of the car.
Segment 12, the legacy it left behind. The MK3 might not have achieved same level of mainstream fame as its successor, but its impact and legacy it left for Toyota's sports car lineage are undeniably significant.
Absolutely. The MK3 served as a powerful demonstration that Toyota was capable of building a true Grand Tourer, a car that could blend performance with a degree of luxury and sophistication. It proved they weren't solely focused on producing reliable, but perhaps less exciting everyday vehicles. It broadened the image and showcased the engineering capabilities in the sports arena.
It also played a crucial role in the evolution of Toyota's legendary inline six engine platform. The development and the refinement of the 7M engine family in the MK3 era paved the way for future power plants. And let's not forget about robust R154 gearbox found in the turbo models, which went on to become a highly sought after transmission for all sorts of high performance builds and engine swaps due to its strength and reliability.
And when the MK4 eventually arrived, it just didn't inherit the Supra name. It built upon the foundation laid by the MK3. The overall layout, the rear wheel drive configuration, and the focus on potent inline six. These were all carried forward and further developed. The MK3 established the core DNA of the modern Supra lineage.
In many ways, without the MK3's bold step to establish the Supra as its own distinct model and its embrace of performance and technology, the later success and iconic status of the MK4 might never have been fully realized. The MK3 was a crucial bridge connecting the old school JDM ethos with the dawn of the golden age of 90s Japanese performance cars. It was a vital stepping stone.
Segment 13. Final thoughts. Respect the MK3. So here we are, nearly 4 decades later since the MK3 first graced the automotive landscape. And what do we found? These cars are still turning heads, still capable of making respectable power, and still surprising those who might underestimate them.
It's not about fleeting hype or internal trends with the MK3. It's about genuine automotive heritage. It's not necessarily about setting lap records. It's about forging a connection with the driver and evoking a sense of classic sports car feel.
If you happen to spot an MK3 at a car meet or cruising down the street, take a second, close look. If you get the chance, chat with the owner. I can almost guarantee there's a story there, likely one that's well worth hearing.
It's easy to develop an appreciation for a car simply because online culture dictates it's cool. But there's something far more rewarding about developing an appreciation for a car based on intrinsic qualities, its history, and the way it makes you feel.
So let's raise a metaphorical glass to the Toyota Supra MK3, the often understated legend, the Grand Tourer with a true turbo heart and the undeniable JDM soul. Respect.
Yes,
Respect. Thank you for joining us, and do not forget to follow SAE-VIT across different channels.